Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a really interesting look at some innovative ways people are approaching mental health treatment.
Yeah, we've got this great conversation you sent over with Casey Dubravcic from Revitalize Ketamine Clinic.
Exactly. And our mission here is to get a quick but thorough understanding of why someone, with a background deep in intensive care would become such a big advocate for treatments like ketamine and TMS, Transcranial Magnetic Stimulation.
Right. And Revitalizes, they've got clinics in Arizona, Flagstaff, Sedona, Prescott Valley, offering both these treatments.
So, yeah, understanding Casey's journey is going to be key, I think.
Absolutely. His background, it starts back in, 2004?
Yeah, that's right. Building this really solid foundation in critical care, ICU, cardiac ICU, pre-op, PACU. I mean, that's intense stuff.
Super intense. And he was apparently heading towards becoming a certified registered nurse anesthetist, CRNA.
Which is a very specific, demanding path. So what happened? What was the pivot point towards psychiatry and mental health?
Well, based on what he shared, it sounds like those experiences in the ICU, they were actually quite formative.
Formative how? In what way?
He mentioned finding it incredibly rewarding, helping the families of patients during those really critical, often, traumatic times.
Oh, okay. So that focus on well-being, even in that high-stress environment.
Exactly. That seems to have been the spark, the catalyst for his interest shifting towards the mental side of health. It's kind of powerful, isn't it, how experiences shape us?
It really is. Going from, the immediate life or death decisions of the ICU to the maybe more nuanced world of mental health care. That's quite a leap.
A significant leap. And that leap led him and his wife, Jill, to start Revitalize Ketamine Clinic.
Okay, so what was the driving idea behind starting the clinic? What gap were they trying to fill?
The core motivation, as Casey put it, was this desire to offer treatments that were both innovative and crucially effective. Things that worked.
Makes sense. And they started with ketamine infusions first, right?
Yeah, primarily focused on conditions like depression, anxiety, where ketamine has shown, real promise. They wanted to provide options beyond the standard stuff.
Okay, so ketamine was the starting point. But TMS came later. It wasn't part of the initial plan.
Correct. He called it a natural progression. They were already in that innovative treatment space.
And TMS fits that mold. But was there something specific that pushed them towards it?
There was a really compelling personal story, actually. He mentioned a friend, a military veteran.
Okay.
This friend had been struggling for a long time with chronic suicidality. Just constant.
That's incredibly tough.
Right. And then this friend underwent TMS treatment, and Casey said it led to a complete resolution of those symptoms.
Wow. Complete resolution.
That's what he said. So, seeing that kind of profound change firsthand in someone he knew, that directly influenced their decision to bring TMS into their clinic, made it very real.
Yeah, I could absolutely see how that would solidify the decision, witnessing that kind of turnaround.
Okay, so they decide, we're doing TMS. Why Blossom TMS technology specifically? What made them choose that particular system?
Good question. He highlighted a couple of key things. One was the durability and effectiveness of the machine itself.
Okay, like build quality. Reliability.
Yeah, and he specifically mentioned its oil-cooled system. Apparently, that allows for continuous use without overheating.
So for a busy clinic, that's a big deal. You don't want downtime.
Exactly. Reliability is huge. But there was more to it.
Oh, what else?
He also pointed out something interesting about the CEO of Blossom TMS.
Which was?
That the CEO really understands the technology deeply, not just the business side of things. That gave them confidence, in the actual science and engineering behind it.
That makes sense. You want someone who knows their stuff running the company.
Right. And then the final piece, which is always important with big investments like this, was the aftercare and support from Blossom.
Ongoing support. Crucial. Absolutely. Knowing you've got that backup when you're implementing something new. And let's face it, pretty complex. That was a major factor.
Totally understandable. It's a partnership, not just a purchase. Okay, so they get the Blossom TMS system, they integrate it. What's the experience been like offering TMS at the clinic? How have patients reacted?
Very positively, from what Casey described. He said there's been significant interest right from the start.
Why do you think that is? What's the appeal?
Well, a big part of it is that it's non-pharmacological, no meds involved. And it generally has minimal side effects.
Right. So for people looking for alternatives to medication or who haven't had luck with meds, this is appealing.
Exactly. That resonates with a lot of folks. Plus, there are practical advantages, too.
Like what?
The appointments are relatively short. They're not particularly intrusive into your day. And importantly, patients can drive themselves there and back.
Oh, that's a good point. No need for recovery time or a driver, unlike some other procedures.
Right. It makes the whole process much less disruptive. He sounded genuinely excited about offering something that can make such a tangible difference in quality of life.
Yeah, you can hear that. So let's maybe unpack the advantages a bit more. Why is TMS gaining this traction? Compared to other treatments, what are his key strengths in Casey's view?
Well, the core benefit he kept coming back to is that it's highly effective and non-pharmacological. That's the big 1-2 punch.
Using that neuromodulation approach, right? The magnetic pulses stimulating specific brain areas.
Precisely. So it's grounded in the science of brain activity, but it also fits within a kind of holistic view of well-being for many patients.
Combining science with maybe a broader approach.
Yeah, and he also stressed the growing evidence base supporting its effectiveness. They're seeing good outcomes in their own patients without those medication side effects that can be so burdensome.
And the clinic environment probably plays a role too.
Definitely. He mentioned the importance of that positive, supportive atmosphere. It's all part of the recovery picture.
It sounds like a compelling combination.
Right.
Science, patient experience, supportive setting. But TMS is still relatively new for a lot of people. What about misconceptions? Things people get wrong about it?
Yeah, he brought up a few common ones. It's good to clear these up. First, the idea that it's painful or invasive.
Is it?
He says most people just feel a tapping sensation. Like a woodpecker was his analogy. Generally, it's tolerated really well. It's not surgery or anything like that.
Okay, so not painful. What else?
People sometimes confuse it with ECT, electroconvulsive therapy.
Ah, right. Shock therapy.
Yeah, but they're very different. TMS is non-invasive, no anesthesia needed. ECT is a whole different procedure category.
Good distinction to make.
Yeah.
Any other common misunderstandings?
One more key one. The idea that you have to have failed like tons of medications before you can even qualify for TMS.
Is that true?
Not necessarily, according to Casey. He said even people who've maybe only tried a couple of meds or even primarily relied on therapy can still be good candidates.
So the barrier to entry isn't necessarily as high as some might think.
Exactly. It might be an option sooner in the treatment journey than people realize.
That's really helpful clarification.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, you mentioned Casey himself, despite his medical background, had some initial, let's say, skepticism about TMS.
He did, yeah. He admitted he was initially worried it might be, kind of a placebo effect.
Or snake oil, as he put it.
Right. That maybe the benefits patients were seeing weren't really from the TMS machine itself, but more from just the increased attention and support they were getting from the clinic staff.
That's a fair scientific question, though, wanting to isolate the treatment effect.
Absolutely. A healthy skepticism.
So what changed his mind? What took him from being cautious to being the advocate he is now?
It really came down to digging into the science behind it.
Seeing the mechanism.
Yeah, and actually witnessing the process, like determining a patient's motor threshold. That's where they calibrate the machine's intensity specifically for each person's brain activity.
The personalization aspect.
Exactly. Seeing that and then seeing the actual positive outcomes in his own patients. That was the turning point.
Real-world results combined with understanding the how.
Precisely. He realized how straightforward the administration actually is, and crucially, how well patients were responding. That direct experience just solidified his confidence. He saw it wasn't snake oil, it was a robust treatment.
It's quite a journey. From ICU nurse, potentially skeptical of new tech, to TMS providers seeing it work firsthand.
It really highlights how experiencing the evidence directly can shift perspectives, even for healthcare professionals.
Definitely. So looking forward then, what's Casey most excited about when it comes to the future of TMS? Where does he see it going?
He's really optimistic about accessibility, just making it available to more people.
How so?
Well, as awareness grows, and importantly, as insurance coverage continues to expand, that's always a huge factor. He anticipates more and more people will be able to access TMS as a real option.
So better insurance coverage, more people knowing about it.
Yeah. He basically sees it becoming a much more common, accepted part of the standard mental health care toolkit. Not seen as experimental anymore, but just another effective modality.
That's definitely an encouraging outlook. Okay, so let's try and crystallize this for our listeners. What are the main takeaways from this deep dive into Casey Dubravcic's insights?
I think the big things are, first, the real potential of these innovative non-drug treatments like TMS to make a difference in mental health. There are effective options emerging beyond medication.
Right. The landscape is definitely evolving.
And second, Casey's own journey is pretty illustrative, isn't it? From that intense critical care world to embracing these, cutting-edge mental wellness approaches, it shows how the field itself is changing.
It does. And his confidence seems rooted in seeing it work.
Exactly. His firsthand experience and the results he's witnessing really underscore the promise of TMS for people looking for relief.
Absolutely. It definitely makes you consider how treatment options are expanding. The rise of non-pharmacological approaches like TMS, it offers new avenues, maybe without some of the drawbacks people experience with traditional meds.
For sure, more tools in the toolbox.
So perhaps this deep dive gets you, the listener, thinking, maybe curious to explore TMS a bit more, whether for yourself or someone you care about.
It's worth investigating, looking into work at clinics like Revitalize and just understanding the potential of these neuromodulation therapies.
Yeah, definitely some food for thought there about the future of mental well-being and the options becoming available. What could these new approaches mean for you or your loved ones? Something to consider.